speed, he's got power. I know he's moving up in weight class, can he carry it? You know, but those intangibles, I believe that he has them.
Look at it, and then Canelo's older. Crawford has the ability, but he's small, you know, and he can look bigger in. Crawford could look bigger in the weigh-ins and all that stuff, but it's always the difference. When you get in that fight with somebody, you can tell. Same thing with Jamel. Jamel fought him, the twin. He fought Crawford, and in all the stuff, the weigh-ins and the press conference.
Too fast and too smart for Canelo. Even Canelo is a good boy. I'm not saying like nothing from not taking nothing from Canelo.
Canelo versus Crawford is being billed as the biggest fight of the year, and Teddy Atlas has given his honest take. Atlas believes Terence Crawford has what it takes to win regardless of weight class, praising his skills, discipline, and adaptability. He argues that Canelo Alvarez is no longer the same fighter he once was, claiming the Mexican superstar has lost the hunger and fire that made him great. According to Atlas, Canelo's recent performances show decline, even calling him overrated compared to Crawford. For Atlas, Crawford's sharpness and drive make him the clear favorite.
That the urgency's not there, the fire's not there. At least it wasn't there a week ago. At least I say that. It wasn't there a week ago. Maybe it'll be there now. Maybe he's the kind of guy that, and I get it, that at this point in their career, it has to be a big fight to get up. That Canelo can't get up for these fights. He couldn't get up for that fight. All right, if you want to go down that road, go ahead. But my road is still possible. That he got old, that just doesn't have that fire no more. Oh my God, I'm gonna say this one. That maybe he's a little overrated. I listen, I know he's tremendous. He's tremendous. But could he be a tiny bit overrated? If you look at some of his biggest fights, the fights where you had to be great to win, that you fought great fighters or near great fighters, you know, you could make the argument that he lost the first Triple G. You know, he didn't embarrass himself, but he got a draw. Second one, you could make the argument he lost that. I know it was a different kind of fight, and he got better. But you can make that. You can make the argument he lost to Lara. He did lose to Mayweather. You can make the argument it was too young in his career. Maybe, although it wasn't that young. He turned pro when he was 15 or 16.
Mean Machine, a fighter who has shared the ring with Crawford, strongly believes size will not decide the outcome of his clash with Canelo. He insists Crawford's skill set is far superior and that his intelligence inside the ring makes him too smart for Alvarez. In his eyes, the difference in weight and natural size isn't enough to overcome Crawford's ring IQ, adaptability, and timing. He describes Crawford as one of the most calculated fighters of his generation, able to adjust mid-fight and dismantle opponents regardless of their physical advantages. For Mean Machine, this matchup favors the sharper fighter, and that is clearly Terence Crawford.
Not good for Crawford. Canelo's too big. Right now, my position changed. I think Crawford is too fast and too smart for Canelo. Even Canelo is a good boy. I'm not saying like nothing from not taking nothing from Canelo, but the way like when you see like, oh, he's too big, when you see Usyk fights and what Usyk did to the big guys like Joshua and Fury, so the size and that doesn't matter. I think the skill level matters, and Crawford, he gained weight, but I think he's gonna be like even faster, and like his head works good in the ring. He's a boxing IQ just on top, so I would say 50-50, but right now I'm kind of leaning more to Crawford.
And that's just because of what you saw Usyk do?
It's not like I'm just giving an example, like size doesn't matter in the boxing. They say like, oh, like Canelo is big and he's fighting like 175, 168, and Crawford just moving from like 147, 154. So I'm just putting an example that size doesn't matter, and like the fighter makes the fight. I think it's just like that I see that Crawford's training and that he's big too right now. So he gained weight, but not like lots of people gain weight like that sloppy weight, like I would say like fat, but he looked like strong, massively strong. So I think it's gonna be good.
How did Terence feel physically when you faced him? Like, how is his strength? Because yeah, a lot of people do make the point that Canelo's just maybe too big, too powerful for Crawford.
Crawford, I wouldn't say like his punches was like super strong, but his timing and accuracy is what makes.
Mean Machine also draws a compelling comparison between the upcoming Crawford-Canelo fight and Canelo's 2013 bout with Floyd Mayweather. Back then, Canelo was younger and less seasoned, and Mayweather schooled him with speed, defense, and ring generalship. He believes Crawford has the tools to replicate that strategy with movement, precision, and counterpunching to frustrate Canelo and neutralize his weapons. However, he acknowledges one crucial difference. Today, Canelo is far more experienced. Over the years, he's faced elite opponents, learned to adapt, and developed the patience that wasn't there during the Mayweather fight.
But they just throw. I mean, he throws like his calculation for the punches and like timing and aiming to the right spots is just like on another level.
Do you think that's going to be the thing that complicates the fight the most for Canelo?
I think so, yeah. And like, yeah, we can go back a little bit to Mayweather Canelo, and Canelo was young and like Mayweather smart, but it can be like familiar fight like that. Even Canelo right now have more experience, and Crawford is still on his prime. So yeah,
From just your experience, you knowing boxing, like how do you think the fight will play out? Do you think it'll be a slow fight? Do you think it'll be tactical? Like, do you think Crawford?
I think it's gonna start a little bit slowly. They're gonna be careful with each other just to kind of like measure each other and see where they at. And like they're like that's why like they're like champs and they're like great ones. They just don't go like crazy like from the first round.
Regis Prograis offers a contrasting view. The former world champion dismisses the idea that Crawford's punches will trouble a granite-chinned, naturally bigger fighter like Canelo Alvarez. Prograis notes that Canelo has absorbed shots from some of the hardest hitters in boxing, men far larger than Crawford, and has proven nearly unshakable. Still, he doesn't completely count Crawford out. While he questions Crawford's power, he acknowledges his world-class technique, stance switching, and ability to execute flawless game plans, making him a dangerous opponent even for someone as formidable as Canelo.
I think that Crawford has the ability to outbox Canelo. You gotta look at it, and then Canelo's older. Crawford has the ability, but he's small, and he can look bigger in. Crawford could look bigger in the weigh-ins and all that stuff, but it's always a difference. When you get that fight with somebody, you can tell. Same thing with Jamel. Jamel fought him, the twin. He fought Crawford, and in all the stuff, the weigh-ins and the press conference, Jamel looked like the bigger man. His head, his neck, everything looked bigger. But when they got in the fight, you can tell. You can see who really was the bigger man. And I think that's the same thing. Crawford is putting on weight, but it's not weight. Like Canelo had the weight already. He doesn't have to put on muscle. He doesn't have to do that. He's already big like that. But I think that Crawford does have the style. He does have the style to beat him. If you look at the people that beat him or gave him troubles, Irislan, Laura, Austin Trout, Floyd, and Bivol, they gave him trouble and stuff like that. And Skull moved around a little bit too. So I think that Crawford has that, but I don't know how Crawford is going to respond when he gets hit. Same thing with Jamel. Jamel was undisputed at 154, and Canelo hit him and shit. Jamel was like, hell no. Jamel took a knee, So it's a big difference. And Crawford had that one fight at 154, and he didn't, Madrimov would touch him up a little bit. And this is nowhere close to Madrimov. You talk about Canelo. Now, if it was just another bigger guy, I would go with Crawford. But you talk about great. This might be, people might kill me for it, but well, not really. But this might be the best Mexican fighter ever. One of them, at least, right?
Jose Vargas Jr., who has sparred with Crawford, echoes Prograis skepticism. Vargas openly states he doesn't believe Crawford can hurt Canelo, having felt his punches firsthand. He admits Crawford is sharp and precise but not heavy-handed enough to seriously trouble a fighter of Canelo's size and durability. Vargas points out that Alvarez has survived the power of much larger men, raising doubts about whether Crawford can create the same danger. Still, Vargas doesn't dismiss Crawford entirely. He recognizes that timing, accuracy, and consistency can break down even the toughest fighters. But in his view, Crawford's shots may not be enough to keep Canelo from marching forward with relentless pressure.
Done in camp.
All we're doing is putting the final touches. I've been sparring Ron Ellis. This guy is a dog, bro. He's been getting me ready.
he's been Canelo's sparring partner. Shout out to my guy Ron, man. He comes, tries to knock me out every single sparring. This guy fights at 68, big dude, goes southpaw, and hits hard. So I know he fought Benavidez, so you know, he's a veteran. He's doing veteran tactics in there where he's not letting me rest in the clinch. He's making me work every second of every round. And I got something for Callum. I got something for the whole boxing world. And you know, I feel you're just as good as your preparation. And we've been doing the road work. We've been doing the mountain work. I've been recovering hard. I've been getting my rest. You know, I haven't been drinking no dark sodas, bro. I'm feeling like Tyson Fury right now, bro. Like.
Mickey Bay takes a more controversial stance, accusing Canelo Alvarez of cherry-picking by accepting a fight with Terence Crawford. Bay argues that Alvarez has often been selective with opponents, waiting for the right timing or size advantage. In this case, he believes Canelo saw Crawford as a smaller man moving up in weight, making it a favorable matchup physically. Critics have echoed this view, suggesting Alvarez is using size and strength to gain an edge. Still, Bay acknowledges Crawford is too good to be counted out. Even with the size disadvantage, Crawford's intelligence and adaptability could flip the script.
That size comparison type of a thing to make it seem like it's not a type of cherry pick that he has to go up into this battle.
No, he a lot bigger. See, people looking at height. Height don't got nothing to do with weight and where you've been fighting at. Like, Terence put his weight on, so it's a difference. No, Canelo's a lot bigger, like, hands down. Like, just mass, as far as mass. He naturally that thick. You know, he got to come down. Terence, just because your weight is up there, that don't mean that. That's like putting a dude, Benavidez, as a heavyweight. He might walk around at 205 or whatever. That don't mean he a heavyweight, though. So, Canelo is by far the bigger man. We just seen him hit dudes 6'3", 6'2" in the arm and hurt him. Like, he didn't hurt Kovalev, light heavyweight. So, I mean, didn't he have a light heavyweight title?
Well, when he fought Kovalev?
Just period, at light heavyweight. Didn't Canelo win the light? Didn't?
No, he just Kovalev, that's it.
Oh, okay. Well, he might have only fought there a couple times, but the fact that he fought up there, though, and he fought way up at light heavyweight, but he been at super middleweight for a minute, so he the bigger guy for sure. So really, he got to hurt Crawford, or he got to get his major respect to make Crawford feel like he got to survive. If he can't that, then he probably ain't gonna win.
Do you feel like you was talking about Crawford, he needs to poke his way out of this fight, right? We've seen that, you know, Crawford's been lined up by lots of fighters. Not Errol Spence, of course, but other fighters that was able to line up with shots that don't necessarily hit like a Canelo. Now, Canelo gonna line you up regardless, right?
Tom Loeffler offers a different perspective, focusing not on fairness but on the spectacle of Canelo versus Crawford. As a promoter, he sees it as one of the most marketable fights in modern boxing. He emphasizes that both Alvarez and Crawford are among the sport's biggest names, each with loyal fan bases spanning nations and cultures. Loeffler explains that fights of this magnitude transcend the ring, capturing mainstream attention and drawing casual audiences who might not otherwise watch boxing.
Actually being in the ring on such a high-profile show, it's huge. It doesn't get any bigger than that. And you know, you got to give credit to both guys. They're both very confident. They both have very passionate fan bases. You know, Callum, you know, having fought in Dublin, packed the arena out there, the 3 Arena, having fought at Madison Square Garden 3 times, fought in Boston, and then Fernando Jr., you know, from one of the biggest boxing named families, you know, in the history of boxing. He's going to bring out a huge fan base. So it's a really exciting addition to, you know, such a big show that it like I said, doesn't get any bigger than that for sure.
I agree. I think that you, along with me, have seen some of these criticisms of the undercard. But really, when you look at it, I mean, we both know Callum Walsh so well. The personality and the authenticity that he brings to this sport is just so sincere. He's so real, you know, being from Ireland, coming overseas to train and dedicate his life to this craft. And his personality is so magnetic that it obviously brought someone like Dana White to be a huge supporter of him. I think in these weeks leading up to the fight, you know, the fighting public who does not know Callum Walsh is really going to fall in love with him, especially, you know.
Saudi boxing power broker Turki Al-Sheikh has been credited as the driving force behind making Canelo versus Crawford a reality. Analysts argue that while Al-Sheikh's financial power has created dream fights, not all are the best matchups. In this case, critics point to the vast size difference, suggesting Crawford could be at a serious disadvantage from the start. They claim the fight was made more for demand and spectacle than pure competitiveness. Still, Al-Sheikh's role is undeniable. Without him, this event likely wouldn't exist. His ability to unite two of boxing's biggest stars proves his influence in shaping the modern sport.
Benavidez Jr., Canelo, you know, would have mopped up all of these dudes, bro. Would have mopped up all of these dudes. Like, you know, when we're coming out and saying that this is a complete mismatch, and this is a joke, and this is a fantasy fight, you know what I'm saying, that Turki Al-Sheikh dreamed of, and we know he's a big Crawford fan, knowing, you know, the level of star power that Canelo Alvarez has, and he had the bag to make this fight happen. It doesn't mean that it's a logical fight for boxing, bro. At the end of the day, man. You know, you guys tell me if Terence Crawford would have beat Triple G. Tell me if he would have beat Billy Joe Saunders. Tell me if he could beat Bivol, even though, yeah, Canelo didn't beat Bivol, but tell me if he could have beat a Sergey Kovalev. And the other loss Canelo has to Mayweather, man. Crawford, you know, nobody in the world, I felt, could have beat Mayweather in the height of his career, bro. Tell me if Crawford, bro, would have just flat out went in there and beat a guy like Miguel Cotto, Daniel Jacobs. You know what I'm saying, bro? Like, it's the level of competition that Canelo faced, man. And these dudes that he went in there to beat. You know, Terence Crawford is nowhere, you know, has fought nowhere near the level of competition that Canelo Alvarez has fought. And I've had some comments talking about, you know, you talk about we're going off of our emotions and you're going off of your emotions. You're not giving no facts, bro. Like, this is all facts right here, bro. The fact of the matter is, bro, Canelo Alvarez has fought at light heavyweight. The fact of the matter is, Terence Crawford has only fought once at 154 pounds. And the fact of the matter is, he was getting touched up by those right hands all night, bro. By Majumov. That's the fact, bro. The biggest, most dominating fight he ever had was against Errol Spence.
Trainer Dave Coldwell has long admired Terence Crawford's versatility, and he believes it will be vital against Canelo Alvarez. Crawford's comfort switching stances gives him an edge few possess. Coldwell notes that Crawford uses this to create angles, disrupt rhythm, and keep opponents guessing. He also highlights Crawford's footwork, which allows him to glide in and out of range and avoid being cornered. Against Canelo, who thrives on cutting off the ring, this mobility could be decisive. For Coldwell, it's not about power, it's about discipline, movement, and ring IQ.
From when the fight got made, I've always fancied Crawford. I just think he's different. I think there's something about him. I think if you add what Crawford's good at, his brain, he can switch, he's very good as a southpaw. His judgment at distance is fantastic. His punch picking is fantastic. He's got good legs. When you add what, and he can pop. I mean, listen, he might. I'm not saying he's got the power to hurt Canelo, but he might have the power to surprise Canelo a little bit and just sting him and just. But when you look at what Crawford does well, and then I look at this version of Canelo, as Canelo's got on, his punch rate.
That's it for today's video. Stay tuned, and until next time.